Good morning, everyone. All right. It's good to see you all. An absolute pleasure to have you all here. My name is Shalom Onibe. I head the cybersecurity assurance department at CyberOne. CyberOne was one of the first cybersecurity companies in Kenya when we were dealing back then with Dr. Solomon. How many of us remember Dr. Solomon's? Are we all Gen Zs? All right, we see one hand up there. So Dr. Solomon, before McAfee became Trellix, was Dr. Solomon's all way back in 1998. So I work for that company, and we've been doing cybersecurity for the last 26 years. Now, before I get into my topic today, I want to establish a few items in terms of what mindset we're going to use to address today's topic. We are now in an era where trust is key to do business with each other. And as an offensive security analyst and as well as a defensive security analyst, you need to understand that attackers think in graphs and defenders think in lists. And I'll give an example. Let's say we have the president of Kenya sitting here, all right, and there are guards around him. If an attacker comes in here, tries to get to the president of Kenya, he will look for trust points between the door and the president. And what are trust points? The trust points will be the photographers, the people serving water. But if you were the person in charge of defending the president, you're gonna be thinking of, are the air vents safe? Are the people sitting next to him threats? Is the light hiding any bombs or anything? All that. Now, I'm saying that to make a point that attackers think in graphs, defenders think in lists. Now that we're in the trust economy, you need to understand that if an attacker wants to get to any business, they would have to compromise their third parties. Their third parties who they trust, their third parties who they do business. So in today's topic around supply chain, I would be addressing it from a point of an attacker, not a defender. So if you're a CISO here, please join me, put down your CISO hat for a minute, and let's look at things from a different point of view. So, why protect the digital supply chain? And I want to establish a few items. Number one, Gartner predicts that by 2025, 45% of organizations worldwide would have experienced attacks on their supply chain, a threefold increase from 2021. 2, only 34% of organizations are confident that their suppliers would notify them of a breach of their sensitive information. And 3, 63% of third-party code templates used in building cloud infrastructure contained insecure configurations based on global analysis. If by 2025, 45% of businesses would get compromised by their third parties, then third-party security is an important thing to look into. All right? So, now that we've established that there are a few statistics showing that you or I could be compromised in the next 3 years, right? We need to start looking at things differently. We need to start looking at things not just from a cybersecurity point of view, but from a cyber resilience point of view. Now, on the topic of digital supply chain protection, there are two aspects. There's the aspects of converting the traditional supply chain and using digital advanced technologies such as IoT, blockchain, machine learning, AI, predictive analysis. And the second side of this coin is the chain of technology companies involved in the delivery of digital products. I will be taking us through case studies today as an attacker in today's economy. So, we've moved from the industrial revolution to mass production and science, now to the digital revolution. And we moved that quickly because consumer requirements kept changing. The same computers we're using to process consumer requirements in 2019, just before COVID, isn't the same we're using in 2023. Now, what has changed? People need things faster. People do not need to get to the bank. People want to integrate their systems across the board. There's open AI, there's open banking, which the foundation is AI. So now, what does that mean for you and I to provide digital services to our customers? And this customer needs are always changing. It means that there are architectural demands that will have to be met, and it means there has to be a new ecosystem. And this is what network infrastructures and data centers would soon be looking like, right? In the era of digital transformation, identity is now the new perimeter, and APIs are the new networks. I'll repeat, identities are the new perimeters, and APIs are the new networks, right? And I will explain the diagram you see, and I'll start from inside. Now, in the new ecosystem, what you're going to have, instead of siloed operations, you're going to be having agile operations, where business A in Turkana has to talk to business B in Nairobi, and business B in Nairobi has to talk to business C in Mombasa, and they have to talk via APIs, all right? Now, that is how your internal networks is going to look like. Now, let's look at how your perimeter is going to look like. You're going to have partners, B2B partners and B2C partners, in form of APIs, in form of web apps and mobile apps. So, does that mean that the traditional firewall is dead? No. It means that the identity paradigm has shifted. Now, I want to throw a spanner in the works, and it's a question for the rest of the room. If I have 10 business applications and I have 50 employees, how many identities do I have in the organization? 500, thank you. If I have 100 business applications and I have 50 employees, how many identities do I have? 5,000, right? The government of Kenya just digitized 2,800 services 2 weeks ago. And Kenya, we are around 53 billion. Sorry? 53 million, right? How many identities do you think the government is working with right now? You can pull out your calculator, 53 million times 2,800. That's roughly around 148 billion identities, right? And these ecosystems, and this is why traditional data centers can no longer support this new ecosystem, all right? So hence the need for APIs. So if this is what the new ecosystem is going to look like, what risks are there across the board? Number one, your attack surface increases, right? If I was to shake hands with a mobile app supplier, right, and say, please develop this application for me, I want to be able to make payment services easy for my customers. How am I sure that the mobile app supplier has actually done the due diligence to secure the app? We are going to see examples today. 2 breaches, right? We saw that in 2020, API attacks jumped from, between December 2020 and January 2021, API attacks jumped 520%. And between 2021 and 2022, API attacks jumped 682%, right? Why? Because of this new ecosystem, right? And we're going to talk about that later in the presentation. Regulatory fines. We've seen companies like Amazon, Microsoft getting hit by regulatory fines. Why? Because this ecosystem does not have proper ways to protect the third party. 4, brand reputation. Now, you can recover from a ransomware attack, but can you really recover from a brand problem, right? Where customers complain about their money getting stolen, or where people realize that you don't value their data. Imagine a scenario where you find out you are scary, the person you pay to protect you, at certain hours of the night receives bribes from someone who comes into your apartment at night to scoop on you. We are seeing that a lot when it comes to the new ecosystem. We are seeing threat actors walk up to third parties trying to bribe them so that they can get access to business systems. 5, loss of livelihoods, right? We've seen what happened to SolarWinds. You know, people got fired because these supply chain risks were not taken. And lastly, multi-year advanced persistent threat subscription. Now, what does this mean? Kenya right now is dealing a lot with ransomware. And when people ask questions around how can we take care of Medusa ransomware, one of the best answers to give is look at your environment from a shadow IT point of view. And when you look at your environment from a shadow IT point of view, you'll be able to identify that these attackers are hitting assets that you're not aware about and services that you're not aware about. And we will see much of that later. So, now we get into the action of the threat landscape. And I want to take us a moment to read what we have here on screen from Anonymous. It says, if I were to advise a rogue nation state on how to take down the United States, I would tell them to start with the APIs first. How many of us are using APIs? Oh, you can raise your hands internally. It's okay. I want to show us why trust is quite important in this ecosystem. And the foundations of this trust, the foundational technology of this trust is APIs. And this is the reason why API attacks surged 520% 2020, 682% 2021. Because APIs are now the new networks. So now that we have this, now that we are aware of this, that we have threat actors who are willing, who can actually take down a nation with APIs, what do we tell the government of Kenya who just launched 2,800 web services 2 weeks ago? Any suggestions? All right, so it gives an idea of how serious this problem goes. Now, a case study. I'm being told I have 5 minutes, so I'm going to hurry up. Now, this is a cloud case study. Let's say company ABC hired company B to develop a cloud application, right? And this is company B developing the app. And this is company A's cloud infrastructure. Company B develops a mobile app and leaves them with vulnerable code, insecure IAC scripts, exploit secrets. Now, they package this mobile app into a container that has malicious images. And this mobile app is now hosted on the cloud. Now, when there's a breach and an incident response is conducted, it was found that an attacker came in by exploiting the cloud services, infected the CI/CD pipelines, and uploaded his own libraries into the code. Now, I want to pose a question. Who is to blame in this scenario? Company B developed insecure applications, but the hoster of these applications exposed vulnerable services. Who is to blame in this scenario? Both parties, right? Both parties are to blame. Now, this is the complexity of supply chain security, because threat actors can come from anywhere. It just takes reversing a mobile application to get key API secrets to access the data center, and boom, you have a data breach. So, in the interest of time, mitigation strategies. Now, when it comes to mitigation strategies, definitely this is a third-party security conversation. You need to have a third-party checklist. Are your third-party vendors doing cybersecurity assessments around their security pipelines? You need to have a DevSecOps team in place. Do you have software bill of materials? Do you have automation in your security? Right now, attackers are using automation. If you're still using manual ways, you're way back in 2002, right? So you need to find ways to utilize automation and AI in your security processes. You also need to have a threat intelligence program, right? You need to have a threat intelligence program around your vendors. Now, 2 weeks ago, there was a certain authority that was compromised by a certain ransomware, right? we security vendors knew 4 weeks before they were hit. Because we have threat intelligence programs that monitor the Kenyan airspace, right? So if we have that as cybersecurity providers in the space, are any of you leveraging that? Let's see few of my customers in the room, few of them are leveraging that as well. So maybe you can talk to me nicely, all right? Zero trust architecture. I gave the example of 148 billion identities. That's what the Kenyan government is dealing with today. So how do you handle complexities around 148 billion identities? You need to have proper identity and access management solutions, secure web gateways to give you postures around your applications, and as well as cloud access security brokers for those in the cloud to give you a picture of where your cloud is and the current state of affairs in your cloud. And lastly, talk to credible architects in cybersecurity. We are now at a point where our whole infrastructure has to shift. And what we are seeing out there is people are releasing tenders to catch up with digital transformation, but when you read those tenders, you realize that it will in no way support where this company is trying to go. So we have Incentro in the room. These are one of the fantastic partners that deal with cloud and help organizations optimize the environment and help you move from traditional environments to the cloud. So talk to architects, right? This is just my personal advice to everybody in the room. It will do you good to talk to architects who understand this move. And I want to end with this. I had a client in South Africa who came to us and they took the initiative to take up API security. And we asked them, how many APIs do you have? They told us 48. After a 2-week assessment, who can guess how many APIs we found? If you are close to it by 20, you get the free threat intelligence program training from me. One more. They had 806 more APIs. This is a tier 1 bank. Tier 1 bank. Michael. Right? So, this is where third-party security is. Right? This is the new ecosystem we are dealing with. So, just because of time, I have to cut a lot of things short, but we can talk much after. But I hope we get to see what technologies are going to look like in the nearest future and how best we can secure them by having proper cybersecurity architects, by having DevSecOps conversations, third-party checklists, threat intelligence program, and lastly, zero trust architecture. Thank you very much. That's my time.